Hey everyone,
Hi.
welcome to Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with Oberon and Banshee. And today we're doing a special reading. We're updating our pandemic outlook video to see where we are now, or our readings, I should say, to see where we are now in the crisis, where things are headed, excuse me, and how this has affected us, our psyches, just collectively even.
We did some readings on this last year, 3.
Yes.
And
Did we do 3?
2 or 3. And we came up with a lot of things that we think were actually, pretty interesting and pretty factual. You can go back into our channel and check those out if you need a little bit of background on what it was.
Refresher.
But we are here now with more or less a new set of questions, taking into account everything that's happened since last year.
It's kind of general, but some of it will delve more into what this is how this is changing us. How we relate to one another, what's going on with ourselves. Hopefully this is going to work out. So there are 2 separate readings we're going to do today. Each have, I believe, 4 cards. We may throw more cards if we need them. We'll just see where this takes us. And right now we feel it's a good time to just look at this collectively worldwide, because it seems as though everybody is in the same boat right now. There's a lot of relapse going on. There's just not, there's signs of progress because the vaccine's out there, but there is just a lot of places that are having resurgences of the virus right now, including our own state.
So this reading is taking place on Sunday, April 11th, 2021 at approximately 5:25 p.m. in the afternoon.
And I'd like to remind everybody that this is, just a tarot reading for entertainment purposes only. We do not, if you need information about the pandemic, about the vaccine, you should consult the appropriate, experts in the field and medical authorities on the subject.
We are not giving medical, legal, or any other sort of professional advice. We are merely giving ideas and questions for each of us to think about and put into relationship with our circumstances and where we see things going, and maybe arrive at the conclusions that we think will best help us.
The tarot things.
Well, it's kind of a synergy,
So today we'll be using the Light Seers Tarot, which we use for a lot of these collective type readings. So by Chris Ann. It's a beautiful deck. And I'm calling my combined readings Pandemic Pandemonium. So let's see what we get. Okay, so this is a general pandemic outlook for, what's here now and what's coming. Our first card talks about the present state worldwide regarding the pandemic. Yeah, it's the 6 of Swords reversed. This is really pretty telling, frankly, Mr. O. The more things have changed, the virus, the vaccine is here, people are getting vaccinated, the more things stay the same. This seems to be, we're sputtering. We're not moving out of a situation, the situation we were in. Some of us has backtracked even with the amount of cases they're seeing to where they were last March or April, or even worse.
It's almost hard to say exactly what's going on here, because to some degree you could say, well, this card is saying we're going backwards. We are, but normally the 6 of Swords reversed would indicate that there's a good reason for going backwards, and sometimes it just doesn't necessarily feel like this is true in this case here.
And I'm not sure I take the 6 of Swords that way reversed. I think it's kind of sputtering and stagnation. No way out of the present difficulties. We're not finding the way. We're saying it's the vaccine, and sure, it is a vaccine, but people have to take the shot. People have to be willing to follow the rules and keep people safe, whether they've got the vaccine or not.
Perhaps it's better to say maybe that people think they need to go backwards, but they're really not exactly thinking this through, that the direction really should be going forward. moving away from problems, and we're not.
Okay. So card 2, what are the challenges or opportunities that lie ahead? Oh. Well, it's the Lovers reversed.
And I think this card is saying that most of us cannot really figure out what the right choice to make is.
What is the good choice? We want you to make good choices, but what is it? And I think people are torn.
Well, maybe in some cases they are willfully choosing the wrong thing. I sort of think the Lover's Reverse sounds like vice over virtue, and that some people are just really shooting themselves in the foot because for whatever reasons, maybe there's a political thing, maybe there's a fear reason,
maybe there's a religious thing.
But they are probably making the wrong choices.
Yes, so this could be in regards to people's choices about taking the vaccine or not taking the vaccine, wearing protective things when they're out in public, getting into situations where, crowded venues or staying home or doing things safely. I think this is what we face here. This is very clear. That is the challenge. Getting everybody to work in harmony.
Yeah, the
Lovers is about harmony, too.
I wanted to say that context was that it is the challenge, and the thing is that to find a way to bring a harmony, to bring balanced reasoning towards what is good and what is not good.
Wow.
To make informed choices.
To make good choices. Either way, absolute. Card 3, what will the pandemic crisis look like 3 months from now? So this is April, July. Where will we be at in July? Well, got the 9 of Cups reversed. This is kind of disappointing because everybody's expecting a return to normal in the summer, and maybe there will be, but it looks to me as though we are not reaching the desired outcome.
That's exactly right, and it could very well be, too, that there's just no satisfaction in knowing that somehow we're not achieving that there's just literally a complete lack of satisfaction in what our reality is. Our reality is just oppressive here. It's really wrong.
It's a little worrisome because what will happen? I mean, is it because there's less compliance? Is there too much a rush again to return to normal? Is it the fact that maybe other variants might occur that could cause a stumbling block? Maybe immunity will not be, possible because suddenly a strain is stronger than the vaccine. It's hard to say what this is about, but there's lots of variables and possibilities out there.
Well, maybe some people will realize that what they felt was good for them, what was their acceptable truth in all this, is not really in their benefit. That people thought that how they were carrying on with themselves was adequate and was doing well for them. But the 9 of Cups reverse sort of says what you think was working for you or was your proper thing was not. And that this could just be saying that maybe people will find there are consequences to how they decided to go about.
Yeah, this is really kind of a downbeat reading. But what will the pandemic crisis look like by the end of 2021? Let's see where we are by the end of the year. Holy moly! So we have the 5 of Wands. Sometimes the 5 of Wands can be constructive because out of conflict and let's just say groups like this comes new ideas, So there might be some new ideas generated. There's definitely more work going on. There may be more of a team effort going on. But it's not going to be without its conflict and disagreements again. It seems like we can't get beyond that. We can't get beyond the right path of working together. That seems to be the crux of it for me.
There's not a lot I can add to that, so I shouldn't really try, but it does feel that way to me, too, that there is a sense here of maybe, people gaming positions here, and that there's not a real realization of where the matter should go, which would be more like the Lovers if it was
Was
upright.
this the first card?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure because we're going to recap here.
Okay.
It should be in order so I know.
Well, I'm kind of going around this way.
Oh, it's counterclockwise.
Yeah. You do that sometimes too. I'll point it out to you if you don't believe me.
Ah, darn. I'm sure you will. So, Scorpio.
So we had the Six of Swords, and that suggested, I suppose, in context, that right now it's not really moving in a good direction, and that
No.
maybe it's moving backwards.
We're still in a state of difficulty and turbulent waters. We're not over the hump yet. I think really that's what it's saying. And what are the challenges or opportunities that lie ahead? The challenge is,
Bringing
doing the
harmony
right
here.
thing, making
Yeah.
good choices, doing what's necessary to turn this thing around. And what will the pandemic crisis look like 3 months from now? We haven't achieved our desired outcomes yet. We're still missing the mark.
It's possible that people will start to realize consequences of their actions, because this sort of implies that they're starting to realize something wasn't working out for them.
And by the end of 2021, we might be building something a little bit more solid, maybe through some innovative ideas and thinking. But the possibility also remains that there will be conflict and there will be some resistance.
There's a human element going on still, with people sort of vying for a position of some sort within all this.
Do you think there's anything that you would like another card drawn on?
No, I think I'm pretty good. What about you?
Well, I think I'm pretty good. I think we're going to leave it at this and just say that at least for this year, to me, if I have to make a summation, I'm going to say that progress is going to be slow. It's not going to be non-existent, but there are definite bumps in the road. There's a worry that we could let some things, I don't know, maybe get a little out of hand, maybe take a very wrong turn. We have to be very careful. I think it might take, cooler heads prevailing by year's end, where maybe finally, and maybe, what else this could be about, Mr. O, now that I've babbled here? Maybe this is about working towards herd immunity. Because in a way, it is the crowd working together. Maybe by year's end, it's going to be a struggle.
What we realize in several months is that our consequences are not really working the way we thought they were, and that we really have to do that, become more that brotherhood. And I sort of see like this cross dynamics between these guys. Like this is saying, this is what we really need to be. And if we can do that, we might get over to this, more beneficial competition towards us. And this is saying maybe that we're not going ahead, we're going backwards. And that's why we're not
meeting our goals, our targets.
We're not meeting our goals, or we're seeing unforeseen consequences.
So, the idea is we're all being vaccinated, but we're not all being vaccinated. So the thing is, we have a goal, like, for example, in the United States, of getting X amount of vaccines out by X amount date. But if people aren't taking those vaccines, if they're refusing that, then we aren't going to meet our goal. And that's just one example. There could be others here. So keep that in mind. Something is not right.
Nope.
So now we want to look at more of a socio-psycho perspective on what this is doing to humanity, to civilization's psyche here, I think is the best way to do this. And I'll tell you what, I got this reading, the inspiration for this reading from Angel Rivera's Alchemical Thoughts blog. He did a reading that was very personal about how the pandemic affected him. And basically, he got the idea from another blog, a person named Jack Chanik. And his blog is called the Jack of Wands blog. I want to give credit where credit's due, because I kind of based and memed the reading off of that. And I made it more for the collective psyche instead of individuals here, to try to make it work for today. So we're going to give it a go and see how it works.
All right. And thanks again to those sources, especially Angel.
Oh, I should let you shuffle first this
Yes,
time.
you should.
Okay.
So we're hoping to be productive this week. So watch out and see if we throw a few other videos out there.
You never know.
You never know.
We definitely have a website coming out
And
on
definitely watch for
April
that.
15th.
That's just a few days, so.
I'm excited. Yeah. I'm scared. All right.
So my shirt says, get in the game, read. And of course, we're reading cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we want you to read books too.
Read whatever you can.
All right, Mr. O. Okay. So question 1 is basically, where are we at? What are our feelings towards this pandemic right now? How are we feeling towards what is going on around us?
And it's the Ace of Wands.
That's interesting. You know, I do think this is like everybody hoping that out of all of this, that we are on a path towards progress. You know, that this is about progress and newness, so that maybe people feel, you know, again, that we're rising over the hump. And, you know, that this also, you know, since this is about how people feel about the pandemic overall, maybe some people are looking at this as as this is a new opportunity, an opportunity for us to think outside the box and do things differently.
It's kind of like maybe unconsciously or otherwise, like people's expectation for something profound to change. I mean, I've heard people saying like, well, this spells the end of blah, 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 or this spells the beginning of blah, 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 age of Aquarius, whatever.
Right.
But the idea that, you know, Wands is not specifically about love or money, materialism. It's maybe more about growth,
right,
network. And it has a social implication because you need people to do that. So it really is about something bigger than people, bigger than all of us in a way. It's
really
more societal.
Interesting because, you know, I think overall this has taken a real toll on everybody's psyche. So I wonder if this is more future casting by us, that everybody is just hopeful that some new age, some more positive advances will dawn because of our experiences of going through this. Okay, so what impact has this had on our lives? You know, let's see, overall.
And it's the reversed Three of Pentacles.
Yeah. So we haven't shown our best side, I think, you know. I think that that's a lot of what this is about, and we haven't really done our best. Many of us realize, you know, the shortcomings that we've all experienced, you know, people not on the same page, everybody having their own rules on how to manage, you know, this healthcare crisis.
I think that this talks about a level of criticism or being scrutinized, and I think this is what everybody's feeling is like. This whole thing has really made us feel like we're all, each of us, under the microscope in various ways, that we're all being looked at differently. Some of us have been forced to make big changes in our lives, possibly sooner than what we expected.
Well, and the other thing is that, you know, like you said, this over-scrutinizing each other. For example, people who want everybody to follow the rules and disdain on the others, and vice versa. Others who think those who choose to follow the rules are sheep just going off to the slaughter. So, I mean, you know, you see that here in this card. Very true.
That's interesting because it is a stoplight too. So it's sort of saying like, some of you have the light to proceed, some of you may not. And maybe there's a lot of people that don't like it either way.
Mm-hmm. So what have we learned about ourselves during this crisis? This gets down to some heart level stuff. Oh my gosh.
The Knight of Wands.
That, you know what? That we aggressively move forward. You know, that we are willing to it's kind of like a trial by fire, but positive. That, you know, we're willing to go out there and risk all.
that we all want to have somebody we can trust. The Knight of Wands is
Is he trustworthy?
Well, he's supposed to be, isn't he?
Okay. I keep thinking of the Knight of maybe Swords in that regard.
Well, no, I don't. I mean, we can differ on that. We can stop the tape and go look it up. But I think that the Knight of Wands, to me, does represent somebody who's a trustworthy person, because they're a friend, they're growth working, they're interested in you growing too. It's the network, the magnetism kind of thing. So that's what I
Growth
think that means.
Key.
I think that we want that. We want to be able to believe in somebody or something. I mean, this may not be a person we can believe in, but maybe it's an idea we can believe in that we can trust. And maybe it's related to that.
The wands have fire energy, and there's a lot of strength there. There's a lot of aggressive energy there, but in a positive way. So I feel like maybe this has really shown us, how strong we can be, and maybe, or how that we need to be strong, to get through this. And maybe it's showing us just how much we're able to handle. I don't know. I have to think about that more.
Well,
I might want some clarification on that card, but I would do that at the end. So things we need to work on, with the time that we're still in the pandemic. So what is it we really need to work on or towards? Wow.
The Nine of Swords.
Oh, how about conquering our own fears, and self-doubts?
Yeah, wow. And, the realization, I guess, too, that we have to be strong for ourselves, if no one else. That if we are not strong for ourselves, then it doesn't matter who we care about. Grandma over on the other side of the country who's alone too. You can't help her if you're not strong for yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to get over your own fears. You have to fight for yourself first and foremost.
Right. And I think you have to examine, how many of your fears are of your own making, Now, some might argue on one side, this is about people who are the sheep, who are just following the rules because they fear too much. And then on the other side, this might be people who are saying, why are you so afraid of your freedom being taken away from you by wearing a mask or following rules? So, I see this, this is a collective thing, is we need to examine our fears and our doubts, and are they real? And what is valid during this time of crisis?
Well, I won't totally abandon the idea that there is sorrow here in this card,
right,
and that some of it maybe is reflected on you, and maybe some of it is the sorrow that we're all going to bear from this. Because
it is overwhelming.
Because it is overwhelming, and most of us will know, if we haven't already, people who have suffered horribly or more from this. And so to some degree, I think that we have to work on that reference there too, of how we as a society acknowledge such a deep gash, such a deep chasm that will happen to so many of us. And it's not necessarily about coming together in religion or spirit. It's coming together really as people, just people.
Okay, I have some further thoughts. I want to recap, but then I may want to pull some more cards, and I think we should shuffle for that and leave these out there. There's at least one card and possibly two I want to redo.
Okay, so let's...
Well, not redo, but add to.
So let's go over it.
All right. So basically, I think the first one is, where are we at now with our feelings regarding the entire experience of this pandemic? Is we're looking for some growth to happen. We think that maybe we have grown from this experience. This has made us, in some ways, it's recreated who we are.
It's a new beginning, and it feels like it's bright, shining, and that it will draw in everybody, that it's really for everybody.
So the impact it's had on our lives is that, we feel as though we're being over-scrutinized. We feel like where, every move we make is like being prescribed by somebody or something, and the pandemic itself.
I think too that because our world is basically materialistic and a lot of people were used to enjoying things, that this feels like punishment, that they're not being rewarded because they can't go to the restaurants or the football games or whatever. So
right, so it's how it's affected our material world as well. So in other words, the impact it's had on many of our lives, I should have thought of this in the beginning.
It just came to me.
Yeah, has been how it's affected a lot. Some have lost jobs, some have had to work twice as hard. We've had to get used to working from home. So there is all of this disruption and over scrutinizing.
Well, and to the degree that people who aren't getting it for whatever reasons, they feel like they're being punished.
Right.
Because they don't understand the magnitude of the health threat.
So what have we learned about ourselves during this crisis? Well, you know what? I'm looking at that Knight of Wands, and it's positive, but the Knights are moving, and so I'm just not sure. So the way I'm looking at that now is I think we have learned how much adversity we can handle. How much strength do we have to handle adversity or not? We've learned we're really coming to terms with, our limitations and, our and where we excel.
And I still think that it's also too about looking at what it is we feel we want to place our trust in, whether it's a person or a movement or a situation. And I say that too now because I see the horse in the background. I'm thinking like, well, it looks like it's a wild horse. So, you have to think about, whether or not you want to trust getting on a horse that you don't know is trained. And so that's what the allegory is here too, is like nobody really knows the future. It's pretty untamed at this point, There's some wildness that's going on that may continue to affect the future for some time. And yet we are compelled to try to figure out if we can trust it.
The things we need to work on over time is, conquering our self-doubts and fears. I feel that it's also about, how we are handling the sorrows, that we have experienced during the pandemic. Many of us have lost livelihoods, businesses, we've lost family members, we've suffered losses, but also, some of us have been living under some delusional fears and self-doubts that really we need to overcome, we need to work on to move forward.
So let's tie this up then.
Did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you said it pretty well. I mean, I think there's this idea that the grief is transcendent in the sense that you don't even have to necessarily know people necessarily to realize it. You do have to be human to some degree. And so if you're a denier, when it does catch up with you, it may be really severe.
I want to pull a card on the Ace of Wands and the Knight of Wands.
Okay.
I want to know more about this feeling of that we're going to grow, what this means. Of course, now I'll get something very contradictory, right? Because that's what happens. Here. All right. The Knight of Wands just bothers me there. I can't say why. Maybe we've learned about how much we're willing to fight for here, to stand up and fight, too. It's the Emperor reversed for the Ace of Wands. So how do we personally feel about the pandemic? How
does this modify that?
How does that modify that? I think it's basically about the fact that out of this chaotic situation that seemed out of control, that we're able to grow personally, through this pandemic. We're able to somehow grow as individuals and people.
I'm going to turn that around and just say that this amount of growth will also present a certain sense of doubt in our authority or doubt in our power too, and it'll be a challenge. I'm not saying that you will succumb to that, but that this amount of growth and this amount of trying to push forward will create some people who will feel very challenged, and some people may feel they don't have the abilities. So it's going to be a very growthful
So you think
time.
it might leave some people behind?
Not necessarily. I just think it's a challenge in that many people will be brought along
I
by
see.
somebody else. But I think it's really going to be a make or break moment in some degree in terms of people being able to look into themselves. I've seen a spiritual lesson there more than anything.
Well, what's interesting about this is that, the Ace of Wands heralds something new, like innovative, new. And we've been learning to do things differently during this pandemic. And so maybe that's what it's about. And this is about how some people just haven't been able to adapt to that, They want it back the way it was. They just have problems. They feel like things are not...
Yeah, if they don't have things under control that they understand, then maybe they're going to have problems with that. And of course, that sounds like every person who really is being a resistor to the safety protocols and to the way the situation is evolving. So then this.
So now we're going to do that. What have you learned about yourself during this crisis and that, or ourselves? And that's the King of Wands upright,
Knight.
and it's with the
Knight of
page
Wands.
the Knight with the Page of Wands upright. Wow. So
I guess it still means that you have to still kind of play with the rules, and you still kind of have to curry favor, still have to be in line, be diplomatic. That still...
Page of Wands?
Yeah, the Page of Wands. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
I knew you were
I'm sorry.
I knew it.
I went to the Page of Swords.
Yep,
I'm sorry.
hey, that's okay. I did that earlier.
I'm sorry. Okay, so why don't you go ahead?
Well, I think that, there's... Okay, so it's about what you've learned is maybe how innovative you could be. That in the face of these challenges and trials that a knight goes through, to grow, you've been able to handle that.
And how you deliver the news.
How you deliver the news. Well, I don't know if I would go there, but
Well,
I feel that you've been
being
able to
that
come up
messenger.
with, well, it's also about newness and inventiveness. And I feel that there is something here about how savvy you could be through this crisis. Like some business people have been able to shift gears and do things that are new and innovative ways to sell their products or their, like food in the food industry. So I think that that's kind of what it's about.
Okay.
So anyway, wow. That's what we have. I
Yeah.
hope that made sense. This is the first time we've tried a reading like this. We did not practice this in advance.
Right, but we did okay, and
Did we?
hopefully,
We did
I think so, and hopefully I think it adds some context to the previous readings, as well as kind of gives us an idea of how things have changed and how things may move going forward.
It's a struggle, though, still. I think it's pretty clear.
And-
when we have things like that, the Three of Pentacles reversed and the Nine of Swords upright, it's a struggle still.
I think we'll be back here again maybe in several months talking about this again.
I'm beginning to think yes. We'll just have to see how it goes. But our advice is check with your medical professionals. Do what we need to do, everybody, to put this pandemic to bed. Because, man, this is something I would not mind having to read about anymore. And we could say it's done.
I didn't want to think that it could last a whole year,
Or more.
but there always was that idea. But now there are actually things going on that can make a difference. So I don't know what the problem is now. We need to do what we can.
Well, stay safe out there, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.